Alright, I'm going to see if I can get this done before the sun goes down. This is take number. Oh my god. Now, I'm having problems here because I'm trying to charge the phone as I'm recording this, and the cord does not want to stay in the port. I'm going to try to look at the camera. I mean, at the lens, wherever. I'm not entirely sure where it's at, so if it looks like I'm looking like. I think the lens is right. Apparently, it's like right there at the bottom corner. There is actually a circle there, but I can't see it. Um, Tranny Power. That's the subject for the talk. But this is not. It may not be what you expect. I don't know what you might expect to hear on a talk about tranny power, but because for one, like I don't even know what when people say like black power. Remember that was a thing back, I guess, back in the '70s. I don't really know what that what does that mean? Is that just a way of like beefing up your own self-esteem? Is that what that was about? I don't really know. That's not really, in a way, that's kind of what this is, but it's not really. There's actually something to what I'm saying. There's some meat here. Uh, Tranny power. Let's see here. Why would I even think that there would be some kind of power in being trans? It's because I read about it. I studied religion for a very long time, for many years, and I got a little brown spot on my screen, which I don't know why I'm fidgeting with it now, but hi. What I read about through studying religion was that now I do feel like this is a noteworthy coincidence that because I didn't read about this at first. I started studying religion when I was very young. At 18, I started studying Taoism. I went from that to Buddhism to the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads, uh, and I didn't hear a mention of this ever during this time. Around 2005, I got into esoteric stuff through the Da Vinci Code. The Da Vinci Code really intrigued my interest and intrigued my interest. Is that right? And but I got from that into Gnosticism and more esoteric stuff, and then I just kind of went into things like shamanism. Uh, it was not until I got into the esoteric stuff and the shamanism, which the coincidence I'm referring to is that it was at that time also that I started researching the transgender stuff. Because it was right around 2011 2012 when I started thinking that I was trans, and then I went and started researching transgender stuff online, which is right around the same time that I got into Old Norse mythology and just shamanism in general, because shamanism was a part of Old Norse culture, as it was in many ancient cultures that where there was not an organized religion. So I would kind of put that into two categories, right? You have organized religion, and then you have shamanism, or the two, at least the two that I'll be talking about, anyways. Uh, so, in shamanism, you find often, very often, it doesn't matter where you're at on the planet. It can be in Europe, Asia, North America. You will find that the people who were in the role of the shaman, which is just a generic term that I'm using. They may not have called it that, but they were very often men who dressed as women, or like in the case of Native Americans, they were known as. And Native Americans, I don't know if they what term they used, but it meant someone who was a man and a woman in the same body, basically, like a hermaphrodite. Uh, so people will a lot of times use the word dual spirit to refer to those people, and but it's the same in other parts of the planet where it was the shaman tended to be someone who was either just seen as effeminate or was someone who actually dressed in women's clothing or castrated themselves. And where you see the castration a lot was in the organized religion. Now, there is a verse from the Bible where Jesus talks about this very subject, and where he says that some men are born eunuchs. A eunuch is someone who is castrated, right? And some men are born eunuchs, some men are made into eunuchs, and some men become eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. And so that is just, becoming a eunuch really, as far as you can tell from that, it just means to be castrated. But when you look at other ancient cultures where this happens, they didn't just castrate themselves, but they also dressed as women. And when I say they, I'm talking about like the shaman or the priests. So in the organized religions, in more what you might call the not tribal cultures, places like ancient Babylon, ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, in all those that I just mentioned, there was a class of priests that was apparently of the same lineage, right? Because in ancient Mesopotamia, I want to say in ancient Babylon, maybe in Sumer also, they were called the Gala, and they were priests of the Great Mother. And I don't remember if they castrated themselves, but they did dress as women. But then when that same group apparently went, this tradition continued up until at least the ancient Roman Empire, where they were called the Galli. In Mesopotamia they were called the Gala, but the Romans called them the Galli. But they were also, I'm assuming they are the same group just because of the similarity in their name and the similarity of their customs and the fact that they were all priests of the Great Mother and that they all dressed as women. But the Galli priests in ancient Rome also castrated themselves, and in addition to dressing as women. And as for the esoteric stuff, I was on an esoteric website at the same time that I'm reading about all of this stuff, which is the coincidence that I'm referring to, is that I was studying this at the same time that I began studying the trans stuff, which I didn't study the trans stuff because I heard about this. I was thinking that I was trans, and I started studying it because of that. And that's when I started reading all this other stuff, and I'm like, wait, what? This is like a sign. It's like the universe is telling me you need to go in this direction, right? But that's when I found this esoteric website, and on it there was this little message board that said, "Do not join occult schools that require you to cross-dress, because cross-dressing is not necessary to attain enlightenment." And I'm just like, this is is this reverse psychology? What is this? This is the universe basically saying you need to try cross-dressing, is what it's telling me. So I was already thinking that I'm trans, and this is part of what pushed me over the edge and to actually giving it a try. Was all the stuff that I was reading about men who dressed as women and being in these religious kind of spiritual leadership positions, or just having spiritual powers and things like that. But one of the things that I read, it was attempting to explain why would these men be dressing as women, and the only theory that they had was that it helped them to climb the social ladder. And I just remember thinking, were societies that different back then than they are today? That a man could climb the social ladder by either just dressing as a woman, or I guess maybe living as a woman, or castrating himself. I don't know what it is with castration and power, but apparently there's just with that there was a connection between power and castration, because you see, like in ancient China, that eunuchs often became the emperor. And so that does make me think about the statement that Jesus made, that some men become eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. And I'm like, is this, is there some power just in castration, Uh, but, uh, but the reason that I'm bringing all this up is because I'm currently, like, I just got a job at Wendy's, the fast food restaurant, about a month ago, and I got the job because I just needed like $100 a week, for buying paper towels and batteries or whatever, or beer, things like that. And when I got the job, I just thought, I'm here. I just want like 2 days of work per week, and because I only need about $100, like I said, per week, and I don't pay rent for the bus or anything like that. I do have a van payment I have to make, but not long after I got the job there, I started thinking about becoming a manager there. Now the thing is that 10 years ago I probably would have been scared just to work at the place because it is predominantly black, and it is a it is a sort of place where the employees are essentially running the restaurant. And when I say running the restaurant, I don't mean they're taking care of business. I mean that they are the ones who are kind of setting the what you might call the mental atmosphere of the place. And the managers walk on eggshells on behalf of the employees because they don't want to lose them. They don't want to push people to the point that they quit because they are so desperate to keep people. So I don't know if it's because of that, but if it's just like, well, here's this like wide open door, which is what it feels like. It feels like, and this is another, like, the universe is just saying you need to go in this direction. The door is wide open. Uh, but like I said, I mean, I've been there a month and I've already endured quite a bit of being talked down to by other employees and things like that. And it maybe 10 years ago, I don't know if I would have been able to deal with that. I think about like how my work, how I felt at work like 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I used to get stressed out at work when there was nothing to stress me out. Right? I remember working for my father, putting in pools and driving it. Like I had one day where I basically just drove a skid steer all day long. There was there was nobody bothering me or anything like that. But I got off work and I'm like, I need to get drunk, uh, because I just felt so stressed out. And so this is one of the reasons why back then I wouldn't even wanted to work at a place like this. But now I'm working. Not only am I working there, but I'm thinking I'm going to be the manager of this place here. It's like it's as soon as I got the job there, this thought that I'm going to be the manager of this entire place. Has been in my mind since I started working there, and I can't say that it's because of the fact that I go to work and I have boobs that are noticeable. But I do feel like that has something to do with it. I feel like there's just something about going to work and feeling like I have boobs that everybody can. I mean, there's no people might. I don't think there's anybody who would look at these and think you're just a fat man, because I'm not that fat. Uh, but there's something about just going to work and knowing that they are noticeable. Uh, and that my face is also, I mean, I probably, without the wig on, I feel like I look like a man, right? But my face is still more feminine than it used to be. Of course, if you hadn't seen what I used to look like, you might not think that I have that much of a feminine face. But uh, what I think is that if I were to stop the hormones and try to go back to living like just being a real man, I don't know if I could. I don't know that I would I'd probably quit the job there. Uh, but I don't know that, and I stated that way because I'm more basing that on how I felt in the past, right? It could be that if I stopped and went back to living as a man, that some of this would carry over. That I would continue with kind of this kind of new set of balls that I have, if that makes sense. The same set of balls that makes it okay for me to make videos, right? That I didn't have before. And so, to like today, I'm thinking about these things that I read many, many years ago about trans or men dressing as women as a way to climb the social ladder or to attain, positions of spiritual leadership or whatever, or as the one warning hinted at, that as a way to find enlightenment. But I have not found enlightenment. I would say that if I do, it will be because I went in this direction. And if I become manager of this Wendy's, it will be because I went in this direction. Now, I'm not going to say that that means that there's power in being trans, because it could just be the power is in being genuine. That I feel like the fact that I feel like I'm no longer hiding, or that I have nothing to hide, is where the power comes from, or the feeling that I can actually run this place. This is I was a manager once before at a restaurant. I never felt like I did a good job. I never felt like I deserved to be in that position. My father had been the general manager of that store, and he didn't just give me the position. He put me through every job in the place. He started me out as a dishwasher, and then I was a host and a prep cook and a cook and a waiter. And then he made me a manager, but I still never felt like I earned it or I deserved it or that I was really that good at it. But now, I look at where I'm at and I think I'm going to make this store is going to be the best performing it's ever been. That could just be improved self-esteem from going through all this. The trans stuff has certainly improved my self-esteem, but a lot of that has to do with, like I said, just the feeling that I don't have to hide. I don't know why I keep thinking the lens is up here on the top part. It's actually down here on the bottom, so I'm looking up here, but it's right here. Yeah, I almost feel like I have to go through the hormone replacement therapy if I'm going to be in a position of leadership at this place. I feel like I don't. What I feel like is that I could not do it. I don't want to say that because people will say, "Well, certainly it would have been possible. You could still do it." But what I'm saying, like I just remember how wretched I felt back, 10 years ago. How just kind of, I don't know how else to put it. Wretched. I felt poor. I felt poor. I wasn't, even when I had money, I just felt like a, a bum. You know. Uh, I feel more like a king now. If that makes any sense. I'm not going to say that I am a king or a queen or any kind of royalty, but I certainly feel more like that now than I did in years ago. And like I said, from me that just it's just that it's just that what do I have to hide? Who do I have? Who do I have to be afraid of? How could I be afraid of anybody when there's nothing for me to hide? I probably still have things to hide. which is why I keep looking at myself instead of looking at the camera, because I'm constantly trying to make sure that, I'm still in that self-conscious mode. But now I'm in a position now where I'm more likely to not make it about me like it is. I feel like if I were to make this a really good running restaurant, it won't be because it's about me. Even though I shouldn't say that. I say that I'm more likely to see it that way. I don't necessarily see it that way. I'm more likely to see it that way. There are still times when I do get into this kind of uh, this kind of aggrandized, like, I'm the king sort of mentality. But I shouldn't say the king, but I do. I go to work often now, and I'm just like, I'm gonna be the manager of this place, which is not what I wanted when I got the job. So that's not why I got the job. I never went there. I didn't apply for the job there thinking I'm gonna be the manager of this place. But even now, I'm not entirely sure that that's what I want. The reason I'm making the video is because of this change in the attitude. This change where I went from being, I wouldn't even have worked here years ago if I just walked into the place and seen how the other employees acted and that sort of thing. I probably would have just been like, I don't want to work here. To go from that to now being in this sort of mental state where I'm like, I am going to show all of you who is boss. So, Tranny Power.